Rob J gave me an incredibly generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Judith Carnage Connoisseur versus Marvo, girl known and Myrel. We have no ramp there, and I don't think we're going to get card draw off the risk factor this early on, so we'll try and mulligan into no lands, I'm sure. Right, no, we do get more lands and card draw, so yeah, we'll keep that one. And there's another means of life gain for us in Etherflux Reservoir. Just going to get down a tap land here. So we'll go for the new Raucous Theatre here, and we'll be able to look at the top card of our library on a Surveil. Heard people hating on these cards, I think they're really good. Swiftfoot Boots. Yeah, I suppose we can keep Swiftfoot Boots on top. Only player playing a spell on turn 1 is the white one, Esper Sentinel. And scratch that, there's a Vampiric Tutor from the black player. And we'll assume that that's what our opponent tutored for, a Sol Ring being played into the Esper Sentinel and allowing him to draw. And throwing down a Chromatic Lantern after that. Alright, so we know we're drawing into the Swiftfoot Boots. Let's try and get into some ramp of our own here, and we'll play the Night's Whisper into the Esper Sentinel. Thawing Glacier's being tapped in response and gonna get a land down by the looks of it. Alright, we do get into some ramp in the form of Thran Dynamo. There's a Volcanic Offering. Yeah, I think I'll just get rid of Volcanic Offering here. We've got quite a few big cards in hand at the moment. And another tutor on turn 3 for the black player, a Demonic Tutor this time. Esper Sentinel not drawing this time, paying the tax for it. And now it's Swiftfoot Boots off the tutor, you would imagine. So managing to protect the Massacre Girl next turn maybe. Basilisk Collar being played into the Sentinel as well. Paying for the tax on that. Alright, another land for us, so we'll save the shuffle effect for now. Let's go for the Black Market Connections. And again, give our opponent another card draw with that thing. Archaeomancer's map is finally on Magic Online, so Myrel managing to make some land ramp here. Black Commander entering play as I continue to try not to say the name, and Swiftfoot Boots goes on there immediately. A land came in under this player's control, so the Archaeomancer's map doing some land ramp for the Myrel. Okay, another land for us. I think we'll not bother going for... I was going to go for the creature token, but I don't think we'll bother now that Massacre Girl's in play. Obviously they want us to have creatures so that they can blow them up. We'll force them to go after the Esper Sentinel. They'll probably go after that first anyway, but we'll go for a treasure and a card draw. Okay, gets us into a Rakdos Signet, so we'll accelerate our mana quite a lot on this turn, I think. So do we pay for Esper Sentinel? We tap this down for 2 into the Rakdos Signet, then we can activate that straight away into the Swiftfoot Boots. I'd rather just hold on to the treasure mana, to be honest, so we'll allow them the card draw again. Not too worrisome while they don't have the mana to go with all these cards. Although it is noteworthy that they'll keep hold of them thanks to Reliquary Tower. Now we are showing our opponents that we're going to have a Swiftfoot Boots here. So how much mana will we have next turn? Can we get our commander down, play and equip Swiftfoot Boots in the same turn? We will be able to do that. Our commander's 5, isn't it? And we'll have 5 lands alone. So maybe it's going to be worth going for the Foretell on the Fireball instead. We are just hoping that we'll hold on to the rocks here. Yeah, I think I'll Foretell this instead. And this is going to cost us 6 mana, but it will be 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So in the later game with lifelink, that should be really, really good for us. Loxodon Gatekeeper now, artifacts, creatures and lands your opponent's control enter tapped. So that means that, yeah, we can still get down the commander next turn, it'll just come into play tapped. I don't think it really matters. Although when we make treasure tokens with this, they are going to come into play tapped as well, which is noteworthy. Probably still worth doing though. So there's a land in the form of Phyrexian Tower. Means our opponent has 1 fewer mana than he might have had here. Looks like he is tapping out, so that should allow us to get down the Judith next turn. Curse of Death's Hold. Creatures the enchanted player control get -1/-1. That will see the back of the Esper Sentinel finally. It's done a hell of a lot of work for only 1 mana in typical Esper Sentinel fashion. And because that goes down, the Massacre Girl will see that and draw a card. And then the Massacre Girl turning in there as well, wanting to see the back of the Gatekeeper. Fetid Pool's being cycled by the Demir player. And there we see Acabal Coffers coming into play tapped. They could have generated a decent chunk of mana with that. Would have had access to 6 mana this turn. And then discarding to hand size, I assume, Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, so shuffling the graveyard back in. They only had those 2 cards anyway. Alright, so we draw into Wheel of Misfortune, which is great with our commander available to us. So, see if we can get down our commander this turn. I will make another treasure token, and should we go for a token if we're going to start gaining lots of life? If this guy has spot removal, he's going to point it over here anyway. Let's go for it. We want to be getting rid of this commander pretty soon anyway. So there we see another land, and obviously knew about the Wheel of Misfortune. Creature comes in tapped, as does the treasure token, as will our land. So let's try the Judith here, and then we'll attempt the Swiftfoot Boots. And that comes into play tapped as well, but doesn't matter with 99% of equipment. Can't think of any equipment it does matter for. And get in a Bloodstained Mire tapped, and we can hold up the Corrupted Conviction. We'll be able to sacrifice the token to this. So it might be during this next turn cycle we see all the commanders hit play, and if that is the case, it'll be a good point to go for the Delayed Blast Fireball. Really set our opponents back. And next turn, hopefully, we can go for both Aetherflux Reservoir and the Wheel of Misfortune to refill our hand. Valiant Veteran. Is this Soldier? Yeah, it looks like it's a Soldier Tribal list our opponent's gone for, as this Anthem effect would suggest. So you can put a plus counter on each soldier you control by exiling this from your graveyard. There is a Lauren, a non-soldier. You will have to point that at this, because the Lauren's going to die straight away. But you will still get the trigger. Massacre Girl sees that die and draws a card. And Lauren does indeed get pointed at the curse. And there we see a Massacre Worm, so when that enters, the trigger will go on the stack. We'll see if this player can counter it by any chance. I don't see why you would. So trigger goes on the stack. We will go for the Corrupted Conviction. Might as well draw some cards here. So we lose 2 life to that. And Judith will put a trigger on the stack. Do we want to deal 2 damage to everyone? We're going to give them a card draw to the Massacre Worm if we make an imp. So yeah, we'll just give the Corrupted Conviction lifelink and Death Touch, which obviously does nothing here, but it does dodge the Massacre Worm and Massacre Girl. Alright, gets us into another land. There is Orcish Medicine to try and keep our commander in play. One of the creatures does die in the form of the Valiant Veteran, so that's another card draw and 2 life lost over here to the worm. And then the 4/4 going in at the white player again. Alright, and there's a commander ready for us to take out with Marvel. So what we could do next turn is go for this at instant speed. Deals with some good creatures here, and we'll gain some life in the process as well. And then our lands will come into play untapped as well. Alright, so at instant speed, go for the Delayed Blast Fireball. 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. And yeah, we will give that lifelink and Death Touch in order to gain some life. The Death Touch isn't of any relevance here, I don't think. But we do get to take out our opponent's creatures, so Massacre Worm sees the commander go down and the Gatekeeper, so 2 damage to each of them. And we managed to go up to 61 life with that when we were in the mid-20s, so that's really good. There is a Feigned Death as well, so we could take out a player with the Aetherflux Reservoir here. I don't know if we're particularly bothered about doing that. Let's just go all in on the black market connections. Alright, and there is a Deadly Dispute. We'll trade this out for a dual land and then play this for black. So we've got 4 mana and then another couple of mana. Maybe Aetherflux Reservoir, and then we can hold up things like Deadly Dispute and try and protect our commander with these effects. And we'll be able to make imps while we're doing it, so yeah, let's go for the Reservoir. And hopefully no one scoops to this, because I'm not sure it'd be the best idea for us to go down to 4 life with this thing in play. So the white player has drawn a lot of cards and is at the least life total here, so we'll continue to bully there. So there we see a Sun Titan going to recurse something, probably the Lauren, I would think. And yeah, just go after Lauren into the Aetherflux Reservoir maybe. And yeah, does go after that straight away, so would be funny to shoot him out of the game with that immediately, but I don't think we'll survive much longer if we do that, so... And I do want to hold up the protection spells here. If we have one more treasure, then we could go for Deadly Dispute and still hold this up, but I'd rather keep my commander in place, so not going to make an imp or gain some life in response to that. We'd only gain 1 life to this anyway. if we cast something into it. Alright, the black player, ominously, is just passing the turn, has 3, 6, 7, 8 mana available. So Marvo back into play for the Demir player. And what are the odds that the Massacre Girl has an instant speed edict effect? Could respond to a deadly dispute with just having our commander in play before the imp comes in. Whatever, we'll go for it. It'll help us decide if we want to go for the Wheel of Misfortune next turn, so get rid of the Shapeshifter. And we will make an imp token for the first time. Alright, we do manage to dodge any kind of edict, so we'll assume they don't have it. A Jeska's Will is nice, along with a Swamp. And there is a Mizzium Mortars as well, which I'm sure our opponents won't be too happy about, so maybe we don't go for the Wheel of Misfortune this turn then. Black Market Connections, we'll just go for the top 2 abilities again. Alright, and there's a Necropotent, so definitely getting into all the card draw effects here. At the moment we've got the mana to go with it as well, which is pretty potent. Crack the Verdant Catacombs, we want some more red mana I think. And then why don't we see what we can get off the back of Jeska's Will. There's 6 cards in hand here and 7 here, so Jeska's Will, do both, pointed at our opponent here. Maximises the amount of mana that we can see, and no point giving lifelink and death touch with that, so it's another imp for us. So we make 7 red mana and exile the top cards. There we see a Harmonic Prodigy, which we are definitely going to get down here. And we'll double up the triggers of our commander, of course. And Hostile Negotiations, do we want to bother with that? I suppose, well, we've got all this surplus mana, we might as well. Oh, I actually gave it Death Touch and Lifelink there. I should have gone for... I think we can do the imp thing twice. Yeah, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing there. Anyway, Prowess on the Prodigy I don't think is going to be of any relevance. Alright, so I think... which one do we choose? Turn one of the piles of your choice face up. Yeah, we'll put this one face up and hope that we get the face down pile. I'd rather have this one. But they might be scared of Sack Outlet and Bedevil. I mean, either way, we're not doing too bad here. We'll go after the white player who might be scared of Bedevil going on to the Sun Titan, which I probably will do this turn in all fairness, assuming that he gives that to us. Little does he know that the dual shot will be even worse for him. Alright, and we do get the pile that we want, that's really good, so... can we go Sanguine Bond and dual shot, and maybe Sedgemoor Witch as well? Yeah, I think we can do that actually, and still hold up the indestructible stuff, so let's go Sanguine Bond, Prowess again on the Prodigy. Sedgemoor Witch is going to give us some pest tokens, so we'll get that in. And then let's go dual shot, 1 damage here, 1 damage here on both of the white creatures for just 1 mana. And obviously that will have Death Touch and Lifelink. And then with the additional trigger we might as well go for an imp, no point giving it Lifelink and Death Touch twice. Alright, so it gains some life here, and we'll continue to gang up on the white player, even though there is a risk of this player scooping on us. I'm worried about board wipes over here and losing artifacts and enchantments and stuff. Less chance of that going on against Demir and Mono Black. And obviously could have put Swiftfoot Boots onto something for haste here, but I want to hold on to as much mana as possible. So we'll do 5 damage over there. And these are 2 damage to each opponent, I think. Yeah, so currently have 8 damage on each opponent upon a board wipe. So the lower we get this player, the worse the imps are going to be for him. I think we did miss out on an imp before, didn't we? So that should be 10 damage on everyone, really. Do need to worry about the Massacre Girl as well, still, because Indestructible doesn't help against Toxic Deluge and Black Market, not Black Market Connections, Black Sun Zenith and cards like that. Anyway, it looks as though he's finally starting to do something. We'll see what all that mana was held up for. It is a Thrilling Encore. Put onto the battlefield under your control all creature cards in all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Always wanted to see this card used, and don't think I've ever seen it before now. It's taken all these years, but yeah, that's pretty good. Gonna get a Lauren and a Sun Titan. Doesn't look as though Sun Titan can grab anything, unfortunately, but Lauren will go after the Sanguine Bond. A little bit of a win more card, but definitely worth getting rid of, I think. So we'll see if we can win as the arch enemy at the table. Oh, I've misremembered this card. I'm just double checking them so I don't make a mistake. When this dies, return it with a plus counter. So that is Undying, basically. Whereas this is Indestructible, so we can go up against Toxic Deluge or Black Sun Zenith at the moment. There is a Thalia. Thankfully, this only costs 1 mana, and we did decide to not equip with the Swiftfoot Boots, so we'll still be able to afford the Feigned Death. But with all the non-creature spells in hand, this thing's going to be relevant against us. There's a Spirit of the Labyrinth, so it may well be worth going for the Mizzium Mortars overloaded next turn, even if it does cost 7 mana. Thespian Stage is becoming a copy of the Cabal Coffers for the mono black player. Will be tapped, but should be able to start making some okay mana off that next turn. No one's got down an Urborg yet, with 3 black players at the table. Swiftfoot Boots goes on to the Sun Titan. That won't dodge our Mizzium Mortars next turn. And if they swing in towards us, I'll be tempted to gang up on it with Imps anyway. Could always just chump with a Pest token, I suppose, so we could swing in with the Imps. But decides not to turn in with the Sun Titan. Is this the first time that Marvo has managed to untap with his commander in play? So it will be able to attack and clash here. Might be able to get a massive spell off here as well. Just been slowly getting down more and more mana over there. Haven't seen any top deck manipulation from this player though. Not equipping the Basilisk Collar either. Okay, and Lauren deciding to allow this player to draw, so... Oh, this isn't what I thought it was. You can't draw more than 1 card each turn. It's nothing to do with casting spells, so... Reading the card explains it apparently. So this player didn't draw at all there. Lauren just read draw a card, effectively. Marvel swings in at the white player. Now that's unfortunate that everyone's ganging up on the white player. But if it's Soldier Tribal, he's more likely to win the clash in all fairness. So I think revealed there was a Gold Knight commander. Okay, and they revealed Overwhelming Forces, so won the clash there against the 4 mana creature. Archfiend of Despair. Your opponents can't gain life, and at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to what they lost, so definitely want to be going for this Mizzium Mortars. It unfortunately will not be affected by the lifelink while this thing is in play. And there's another big spell coming from the Demir player. Any number of target players each discard a number of cards equal to the highest mana value amongst permanents you control. That's a shame. Well, we've got all this decent stuff in hand, so apparently should have got down the Necropotence. Might as well go for the Feigned Death then. I'll put that onto the commander. So that will trigger Prowess. We'll get a couple of Imps into play, as well as a Pest. And the white player had something for us as well. That is a generous gift going onto the Swiftfoot Boots. This might make the Sun Titan more relevant if our opponent has to discard small permanents. But 1 board wipe does make the Imps take out the white player at this point, so we can definitely focus more on this player now. And then Archfiend of Despair will trigger. I think it's only this player that's lost life here. Alright, so let's see. There is a land, Midnight Banshee, Orc Sure Shot, Pitiless Plunderer, Bloodcrazed Paladin they can get back with the Sun Titan. Here is Rescue Retriever, Curse Totem, and Samurai of the Pale Curtain. We obviously know what we discarded here. We just draw into a land. So let's go for a treasure and another card draw. Hopefully we get into something relevant. Although we might have drawn all of our relevant cards at this point. Might have used up all our luck. Oh, of course, I forgot this thing's in play, so we just took the life for no reason. Yeah, so we'll just stay empty-handed. Show our opponents the land and swing in with all these Imps at the Demir player. And we'll take the Elephant in there as well. We can chump with the Pest tokens and maybe some other bits as well. So blocking the Elephant with the 6/6, and we get 12 damage through on them with the Imps. So we get this player down to 21, nothing we can do, so just auto-yield through all the turns. Seeing Miro for the first time in the entire game, and can play more than 1 spell here. I thought this was something else previously. Only has 1 card left in hand though, thanks to the mass discard, and deciding not to play it by the looks of it. A card was suspended for the black player apparently at some point. I missed that. A Festering March. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until the end of the turn, and then upon resolution you exile it with 3 time counters on it again, so it's just a consistent debuff. Very, very slow though. Yeah, Massacre Girl just going straight through to the end step as well, not swinging in with the Sun Titan to grab anything back from the graveyard, so yeah, this player's going to be able to go off next turn seemingly. If we can maybe dodge a board wipe, we could go wide on them enough to make the Imps more of a threat to them. Put them in the same position that the white player's in. Suppose I could have swung in with this last turn as well because it has Menace. We'll likely do that next turn. Lauren, draw a card, and again this player won't draw thanks to this thing, so Lauren just tapping to draw. does have to do it on an opponent's turn because he does draw during his own draw step, of course. And deciding not to swing in, so he's worried about us going wide, I imagine. Doesn't look as though he's willing to cast this either. Otherwise you would just swing in, see what you can do during combat and then blow up all the creatures anyway. Alright, he is tapping out here, so maybe he is going for this anyway. Yeah, it's a board wipe, that's blood money, so each non-token creature destroyed this way create a tapped treasure token, so maybe wanted to maximise the number of non-token creatures that were in play to get the most treasures. And yeah, not attacking in would allow him to do that. I think I would have attacked in anyway, personally. Anyway, the imps are about to do what they're in here for. And thanks to the spirit going down, we'll be able to draw with the black market connections at least. So we'll gain a couple of life to the pests. There we go, so knocking the white player out of the game with the imps. And this player goes down to 9. We do not have haste anymore, thanks to the white player. And there's a soul ring, even more mana. I think we just have to go all in here. Make use of this surplus life we've been gaining. Nope, just more mana, so we'll get down our commander again and hope that it sticks. May well be that the Demir player has massive cards in hand that he can just straight up hard cast now. And this is removing its penultimate counter, so next turn we have to be wary of the fact that all our creatures are going to get -1/-1, which hopefully won't be relevant. A read the bones for the black player, gets to look at a bunch of cards, and down comes the commander here as well. But unlike us, Swiftfoot Boots is still available, so that goes straight on to the commander, and probably should be swinging in over here, taking our opponent down to 5, but may well be worried about the swing back, so yeah, leaving that player at 9. Thawing Glaciers being activated again for probably 9 times in 10 turns. I think they got this down pretty early. And not seeing the board wipe, instead Marvo comes back into play again, so we've got 3 commanders in a row. Can swing into that quite easily at least, unless they decide to put the Basilisk Collar onto it. And then after that, casting Whirlpool Whelm, clash with an opponent, then return a creature to its owner's hand. If you win, you may put that creature on top of its owner's library instead. So it's going back to the hand regardless. They reveal an island. We revealed a mountain by the looks of it. So that goes back to the hand as opposed to the command zone. It will cost considerably less from the hand, of course. And does still have a big creature in the form of Thieving Amalgam. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, you manifest the top card of the library. So if that clears off the mountain that we revealed, then that's fine with me. Means that we get closer to drawing something relevant. Does put more blockers in the way though, which is obviously what our opponent's aiming for. So we'll start to draw more cards again with Black Market here. That is a Fear Fire Foes. So X damage to a target creature and 1 damage to each other creature of the same controller. That's a sorcery, so we can't wait for Massacre Girl to get something else down. We'll go all in on this as well. On the Black Market connections, get everything off it. Alright, and just into another land, so... I think we have to blow everything up here just for the sake of keeping blockers out of the way, if nothing else. So let's get down Judith. And I suppose if we're going to show that we don't have anything else in hand, we might as well go all out into X and gain as much life as possible. So let's pull a land out of the library here. We'll shock in a Blood Crypt and hope that the additional life doesn't matter. So we've got 1 floating, excluding the treasures, which I'm remiss to use. We'll go 4, 8, 9, 10 I think that is, into X. Point that at the Marvo. Yeah, so X is 10, we'll say done on that. And with Judith we will give it Death Touch and Lifelink so that it Death Touches the other things out of the way. Much as I would like to make imps at this point, we need to be getting rid of this player before he does any more significant damage to us. So we should gain 12 life here, 10 from this and then a couple of pings. Thieving Amalgam is going to lose 2 life and gain 2 life. So they end up at 11, we end up at 40. And do not have haste still, but the shapeshifter we made last turn can negate some of that damage that they just gained. I think Massacre Girl needs to start helping us here, really. Alright, a tragic slip from the Judith at the end there, or from Massacre Girl onto Judith, so she goes into the command zone again, and obviously draws a card. Creatures did die, of course, so that was -13, -13, which we enabled. Then the Festering March, not going to be too relevant here, hopefully, but it depends on what other debuffs they get in play, I suppose. If they can get rid of the Demir player, I don't mind them blowing up our creatures, but if they're going to blow them up and then not get rid of this player and allow him to keep casting big scary spells. It's only a matter of time before he runs away with it. Anyway, that gets exiled again with 3-time counters on it. Noteworthy there is a Volrath Stronghold here as well, so they can grab creatures back from the bin if they want. A Cryptghast with still only 4 swamps in play, but that's 8 mana that those will generate. Massacre Girl does now chip away. It's noteworthy that if he had attacked in there last turn, then this player would have gone down. I think he had a free run to get Massacre Girl through previously. So we're giving the Demir player another turn that he didn't need to have. So there we are, seeing the board wipe now. And going to lose the commander doesn't hurt us as much because we've already lost the commander, of course, but there'll be some more card draw here. Could counter our commander when we recast it. And we're seeing why I held on to the treasure tokens now, because this additional mana is going to make all the difference, maybe. Alright, so let's see what we can draw into here. Luckily the Black Market Connections has kept us in cards here. Bless them sacked. Board wipe number 27 for the game. Go all in on these again. The Shapeshifters didn't go down there. How was this worded? Oh, it's a target opponent. Alright, so had to go in. I thought this, with this much of a cost, I thought it would be everyone, but alright, well, not getting rid of our Shapeshifters, so means that we can take this player out, hopefully. We'll take him out before we play anything else so that he can't counter us. A Thrill of Possibility maybe gets rid of the Blasphemous Act, although we can gain a hell of a lot of life with this if we need to. Might be worth holding on to. So we'll finally try and take out the Marvo. Alright, and successfully taking him out, so just a 1v1 at this point. Probably just replay the commander and pass. And obviously we can hold up the Thrill of Possibility if we are desperate to do something here. I'm just remiss to discard Blasphemous Act thanks to all the life we can gain, like I said. All depends on what our opponent does here. Might do something at the end of our turn, 2 cards in hand. Setting up with the Volrath Stronghold maybe. Points the Stronghold at the Massacre Worm, alright. So looking to get rid of those tokens next turn. Doubt he can play Massacre Girl and the Massacre Worm, so that's 1 blessing at least. And that does make the Blasphemous Act less relevant because we're not making as many tokens, or we don't have as many tokens to deal damage to. Well, maybe he can afford it, yeah. Looks like he can go Massacre Girl and the Massacre Worm here, so he's going to draw a lot of cards. Unless we decide to go Thrill of Possibility, probably going to be a good idea. Tempted to go for the Imp off this anyway, so we can deal 2 damage to our opponent, even though it does give him an extra card draw. Probably not the best idea to give him more cards. Might not be the best idea to discard Blasphemous Act as it stands, but yeah, we'll try and get rid of Massacre Girl in response to the Worm. And let's just give that Lifelink and Death Touch, like I said, to minimise the card draw, because it may well be that we can't get into any instant speed removal here. Alright, well, there's an Electrickery, so we can wait for Massacre Girl to come down, and then overload that in response, so that worked out nicely for us. We'll still lose the Shapeshifter tokens, unfortunately, but Massacre Girl will not see the death of the tokens at least, so that is definitely going to be Death Touch and Lifelink, so that they deal 1 Death Touch and Lifelink each to each creature. So we gain a couple of life there, and both the big creatures go down. Don't even know what Massacre Girl costs at this point. Unfortunately still lose the tokens, like I said, but we're a couple of cards deeper into our library now at least. So let's see what we can do here. 1 card left in our opponent's hand, another land for us. We've seen a lot of mana this game. Go for everything with this again. And the life gain's been really imperative, especially with Black Market Connections and the amount of life we've dumped into that. Just more mana, superb. So we will swing in with the Judith. Let's play and crack a Wayfarer's Bauble. We're paying for Judith's command attacks again this turn at least, but if we can't stop drawing into mana, I don't see what we're going to do this game. I mean, we've taken a couple of players out, so can't feel too bad. The deck has run very nicely for us up until now. Just 1 swamp left in the library is relevant. Not sure if I've got any mass haste in the deck. There's that new Lord of the Rings fervour that I could add, I suppose. Maybe anger or something like that, but yeah, having haste on these tokens and the imps and all that would be relevant maybe. And this thing will go off again next turn for -1/-1 on all the creatures. And again, Volrath Stronghold going after the Massacre Worm again. Can you keep affording Massacre Girl and Massacre Worm? Alright, so playing the Worm without getting the commander into play. Means that we can't attack in with our Judith at least. But we need to start getting into instants and sorceries so we can dump imps into play. They can replay Massacre Worm all they want, as long as we've got imps along for the ride. We'll be able to do 2 damage to our opponent per imp that dies, of course. And it's noteworthy that the Chromatic Lantern, card that doesn't get a whole lot of respect, people think it's overrated, but it's keeping the Ancient Tomb online, because they don't have to lose life to it here. And then tapping out, putting the Swiftfoot Boots onto the worm, and deciding to hold back as you would expect. So, no mana on the top, please. That is a Tectonic Hazard, 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So we can get rid of the Massacre Worm again. And again, we're going for all of these, just keep the pressure up on our opponent. Alright, that's the kind of thing we wanted, a Mizzix's Mastery. So, is it actually going to be of any relevance here? We have to check. We've got a Night's Whisper, Volcanic Offering to get rid of the Volrath Stronghold is nice. Corrupted Conviction. Yeah, I think Delayed Blast Fireball. We've got some decent stuff that we can get off the back of it, so do we want to bother going for Tectonic Hazard? I don't think it really matters then. We might as well keep it in hand. So let's overload a Mizzix's Mastery. Alright, so we'll make an imp with the Mizzix's Mastery. Oh, and our opponents, really? You're not going to let us do it? Our opponents just conceded by the looks of it. Mizzix's Mastery, we are going to cast each copy. We don't have to, but we cast the copies that we do decide to cast. So things like this make us an imp. Volcanic Offering is Death Touch and Lifelink. We don't have to go for something like, where is it? The Blasphemous Act, because that would obviously take our creatures out. But we'd end up refilling our hand there with the card draw effects and taking out our opponent's permanents. Bedevil would have gone on the Swiftfoot Boots. But yeah, would have drawn into a decent amount of stuff there. Although nothing too flashy in the end. Could have gone for the Mana Geyser for a hell of a lot of mana, but not sure it would have been too relevant, any of it. But yeah, Mizzix's Mastery, ending the game as it has done hundreds of times before now. So hopefully you all enjoyed this Judith Carnage Connoisseur. I think we all had high hopes for it, and this game proves why. It turned out to do very, very nicely for us. If you want to see it again, then be sure to let me know in the comments section. Thank you to all the patrons for their support of the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.